Uh, I decided I'm going to, since I still have a little bit of vigor in me before I go to bed. Um, no specific topic today. Yesterday was a free fall. I said you could ask me anything, but I was going to give people bonus points if they could stump me on something related to philosophy. Today is different. Today is Monday. So we're doing a fresh start. I was thinking let's talk about all things geeky, all things nerdy, all things dorky. And that can be sci-fi, comic books, superheroes, movies, trading cards, role-playing games, video games. Um, what else is out? Whatever else is geeky, like um, science related stuff. Of course, philosophy. Philosophy is always going to be. There will never be. Well, I shouldn't say never, but there will almost never be a day where I won't be um be afraid to topic to talk about anything philosophy related, because literally philosophy relates to just about anything, because because it's such a broad domain of study. It covers literally almost everything. There's literally like a philosophy of X, Y, and Z for anything. Trust me. There's like a philosophy of humor. So comedy, that's another thing. So yeah, today let's talk about everything geeky, nerdy, dorky, whatever. It doesn't even matter. As long as it's something that's geeky, something that some people would roll their eyes at, right? So, like I said, we can talk about anything like sci-fi, superheroes, comic books, movies, TV shows, books, school, trading cards, video games, um, tabletop role-playing games, anything like that. The only thing we're not going to talk about, since this is all geeky, nerdy, dorky related stuff, is sports. What's up, Cole? How are you? So yeah, so this topic today is anything geeky or nerdy related. So not sports, but anything else. So movies, sci-fi, comic books, um, books like regular books, like like literature, especially classic literature. Very nerdy. Um, Anything. Let's talk about it all. So whatever you guys want to talk about, this nerdy or geeky related, let's do that. How about that? Martial arts. Martial arts can be nerdy. Anything there's a nerd. Put it this way. Anything there is a nerddom for, we can talk about today. The only thing I'm not really going to talk about is sports, because to me that seems antithetical to nerdiness. Although you can nerd out about sports, but it's um that'll have to be something different. Velig G said, "Let's talk about the ocean producing most of the Earth's oxygen." Go ahead. I mean, what specifically about that? So, I mean, yeah, if you bring up a topic, I don't think it's crazy, since when you look at the chemical compound of H2O or water, a lot of oxygen is bound in in water, and water covers like 70% of the Earth's surface. So, makes sense to me. Thank you. I think my niece and nephew got me this Star Wars shirt. Plankton, right? Um, you talking about Plankton from SpongeBob SquarePants, or you talking about actual Plankton? Okay, so as soon as we start the live stream, there is a troll amongst us. He is gone. Oh, that plank, right? That plankton produces the oxygen. I'm sorry. Right, right. Uh, yeah. I think that's mostly the plank the plant plankton, right? Or does both animal and plant plankton create oxygen? Dropping in from Jabra, Alaska. What's up, Jabra Eagle? Tashi Fix Mr. ZM says, hello, hi, big man, watching you from Zambia. Where are you from? First time watching. Well, first up, thanks, Tashi, for tuning in. I am in America, in the state of Maryland, uh, Baltimore to be specific, which is on the east coast of the United States, if you're not aware. Yeah, yeah, I'm not sure, but I'm thinking phytoplankton produces most of the oxygen, not zooplankton, but I'm not sure. How's America? Not great. Not great. Well, in some respects it is, in others it's not. But I enjoy my time overseas more than I enjoy here nowadays. I think the American dream for a lot of us is to get away from America. But, there are some bright spots to being here, of course. I'm not going to pretend that there isn't. Am I an artist, singer, or rapper? Neither of the three. Yeah, so it's phytoplankton that produces most of the oxygen. Told you, nerd. I'm a nerd. Jay Blue says, be funnier. Well, I'm not paid to be funny, but trust me, if I were, I would definitely hire comedy writers to make sure that I deliver some pretty good comedy. And for what it's worth, there's a lot of YouTube comedians that aren't very funny. I won't name any specifically right now, but I'm sure you can think of a few. Rap some big MA? Huh? Again, I'm not a musician or entertainer or anything of the above. Yeah, I'm saying there's paid YouTube comedians. There's several. Like there's a lot of people they do stand up, or some of them don't do stand up at all, but they make most of their comedic content through social media like YouTube, Instagram, TikTok. I can't remember the names of many of them because most of them aren't that funny to me, so I don't really follow them. And then there's actual comedians who do stand up who also make content online. Those tend to be the ones who are funny and whom I follow, like people like Tony Baker. He's funny as hell. The stuff he does on Instagram, especially when he does the voiceovers for animals on his Instagram, he's pretty funny. But that's because he's a real stand-up comedian. He's not a YouTube comedian. What I know about Project V 2025, I haven't heard of it. Velig G says, how do you feel about the U.S. sending loads of money to Ukraine when people in America can't even buy a house? Well, I've talked about that before. So, for those who don't know, and pretty much all of you don't know, because I don't think anyone's ever watched my content when I first started 2 years ago, and I started this as a hobby. It still pretty much is a hobby because I'm not monetized yet. Which, by the way, if you please like, subscribe, hit notification, share. You know the spiel. But I started my very first video on here saying, fuck the Ukraine. Like, and I still mean that. We've wasted billions of dollars trying to help them in a proxy war against Russia, which has been a sunk cost. And besides that, I don't think we should even be involved when it's more or less a civil war between those two groups. Not to mention, we learned intel a year into the war that Ukraine kind of instigated it. Not to mention our provocations of of talking about them joining NATO. So I think it was waste of hundreds of billions of dollars. Not just to them. We sent 100. I think we sent like 100 billion this year. We're not even talking about in 2022 and 2023 how much we sent. I'm not even talking about how much that we sent then, but just this year, say like 100 billion, then several billion more to Israel, to several billion more to Taiwan. I support the last two, but I don't support the one with Ukraine because it really we could have stayed out of that one. I want to be nerdy today. I want to be political, guys. Let's start. I, so politics and sports and religion are not going to be a topic for today. If you don't mind, I like to just keep it on nerdy stuff. Okay. Um, Kevin Mackin says gays rock support your lifestyle, bro. Well, hate to disappoint you, douchebag, but I'm actually married to a woman and never been gay, bro. Need to keep them little corny ass Gen Z jokes to yourself, unless you can actually deliver something that's funny. Us Gen X's, we clown people for, as a pastime when we grew up. So you're not gonna be funnier than us when it comes to insulting people. I could right now, if I was worrying about not being monetized, well, rather if I wasn't worried about being monetized, I have like 1,000 ways to talk about your mother. So you can jump off this string. Anyway, Zelik says, yeah, rap some. Guys, there won't be any rapping. Again, this is going to be a live stream today about nerdy and geeky stuff. If you come here talking about dumb stuff, you're going to get timed out. And if I seen you've been on my live streams multiple times with the same trolling, I'm just going to ban you from the channel entirely. And when I ban you from the channel, it bans your IP address. So no matter what new handle you come up with, it's going to always ban you because YouTube provides that through its algorithm. Anywho, we're not trying to solve problems. You're not going to solve problems just talking about a live stream, Zilix. So shut the fuck up. Anyway, Justin one says, and the war is just taking too long. Yeah, because it's a proxy war. I mean, for for better or worse, Ukraine already lost. Or let, let's put it at its best, they've reached a standstill months ago, and that's where it's been. And it's only a standstill because Russia has been civil enough not to release the beast. If they wanted to release the beast, it'd have been over. Unless NATO and the U.S. stepped in, it would be definitively over if they decided to go hard at it. I don't want to get into it because, like I said, I don't want to talk about politics. But yeah, yeah. Milk says as new branding, he's back. That's cool as long as you chill. That's all I care about. If people are chill. Even if you were a troll before, I don't care. As long as you're chill, I don't care. Like, what anime you watching? Man, too many. So, watching Fire Force, Doctor Stone, watching some really old stuff, Rama One Half, and Sailor Moon because I never watched it in the '90s, so I wanted to see what was it all about. Since Netflix has the new version of Sailor Moon, so I started watching the original. Um, just finished binging the new season of um is it I forgot the title. Well, it was, the short version is called Dan Matcha, but it's called um is it okay to pick up girls in a dungeon, whatever you call it. Long ass title, but I just watched season 4 of that. Um, Hulu's been great. for anime, especially with the merger with Disney. So I watched it all on my Disney Plus app. So I don't have to go to Hulu separately to look at that stuff. Plus, a lot of the stuff that I'm checking out on Disney Plus Hulu are the things that I had on Crunchyroll that I couldn't watch because it was behind a paywall. So a lot of stuff behind a paywall on Crunchyroll I'm getting to watch on my Disney Plus. But what else am I watching? It's another one on there's a few on Netflix I'm watching. Um, I can't remember all the names of everything, but there's another dungeon type anime I'm watching on Netflix. But in there they like cook the monsters after they kill them, which is funny. um, what else? Er, just, just a bunch of anime. Those are the ones I can remember off the top of my head. My ears are funny. I don't care. And Zilix is gone. What is your favorite sports team? Well, okay, so you jumped into the chat after I gave the intro. So this live stream, Justin one, I mean just Justin one, sorry, is mostly just gonna be about nerdy and geeky topics today. So not really sports related because I'm not a sports fan. I don't have a favorite team. Not now. As a kid, um, I guess as a kid, my favorite team was Chicago Bulls because I grew up in Chicago during the '80s when Jordan ran supreme. So that was my favorite team, the Bulls, and basically everything Chicago related when I was a kid. So Chicago Bulls, Chicago Bears, Chicago Cubs, those were all my favorite teams. Also the Baltimore Orioles, where I am currently. I lived in Philly briefly, but I never really cared about any of their sports teams. And 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 in Baltimore, we didn't have any other sports teams besides the baseball team. We didn't have a football team back then, and I was too young to have remembered the NBA team, the Baltimore Bullets. Kind of fitting for Baltimore, but they were before they were the Washington Wizards. They were the Washington Bullets, and then they changed the name because they thought that was too violent and kind of typified the bad a bad presentation of DC. So they changed it to Wizards. But before it was the Washington Bullets, they were a Baltimore team. They were the Baltimore Bullets. So and then back in the day, the the Colts used to be part of Baltimore. Um, and my parents still talk about how one day the team just literally just packed up and moved to Indiana, which I don't know if that's true. Like they didn't tell anyone. Maybe that's true. I don't know because that was before my time. But yeah, I'm not a huge sports fan. The only sports I really watch is MMA and Muay Thai, since those are the sort of things I like to train in myself. I free whatever you're gone. Logic Holmes says, "Yeah, I was born early '84. I grew up with y'all bullies. Bah, I miss it." United States says, "Go to the Renaissance Fair and bully the kids. That's funny. Why would you bully them?" There's a Renaissance Fest here, and I think it's Howard County every year. Howard County, Maryland. Uh, I think it's Howard County. I've always wanted to go. I wanted to go with a friend, an old college friend once, but we ended up not going, and we haven't really talked in a while. I think with her moving closer to her husband, which I don't know why they had a falling out or whatever. She never discussed it with me, but she used to hang out with me a lot at the time. But I wanted to do a one of those Renaissance festivals with her, but I still want to do that. I guess if I'm still here in the U.S. the next time they do one, because I prefer traveling most of the time than doing things here in the U.S. Like I really like when I'm here back in the States, I really don't do anything other than train, work, go to the gym, and sometimes I'll go out with a friend to like go places to eat, but I don't drink or anything. So we'll go to a bar and I'll just get food. I don't drink. But most of the activities I like to do is usually outside of the country. So I really just don't do anything here. Just stack my ends and use it to travel. So I'm from Maryland, Logic Home, Baltimore, Maryland. But I've moved around a lot. Like I used to live in Chicago, used to live in Philly, used to live in Bear, Delaware, used to live in the DC suburbs. Then I was in the army, so but yeah. What type of nerdy movies do I like? So, superhero movies mostly, sci-fi movies. I used to like Star Wars, well, up until Disney messed it up, but I used to like Star Wars movies. I mean, there's one Disney Star Wars movie that I like, which is Rogue One, but the sequel trilogy was horrible. Their their anthology movies, except for Rogue One, were horrible. Like Solo, and then the most of their Disney Plus shows have been horrible, except for Mandalorian, except for and that's only the first two seasons. The third season sucked, but the first two seasons of Mandalorian, Rogue One, um, that's pretty much it. So whatever nerdy movies, like stuff, classic '80s movies, like anything from the '80s, like most movies from the '80s, I love. Like the old Chris, I forgot what the guy's name is, but he had a whole genre of teen flicks from the '80s. So all those sorts of movies. Star Trek, the old movies. Um, what else? Indiana Jones, James Bond, a huge James Bond fan, especially the most recent guy, Daniel Craig. I think, art aside from, of course, Sean Sean Connery, I think Daniel Craig has been the best, most realistic James Bond. So he's my favorite of all of them. And when we talk about superhero movies specifically, like Batman are my favorite, except for the last one. Don't like Robert Pattinson. We can talk about that. Whatever movies, just bunch. Oh, martial arts movies, of course, like the old kung fu flicks from the '70s and '80s. I love those. I did a whole video about that live stream, but it was a vertical live stream before I had like people to actually converse with in the stream. So it was just me yelling into the ether about my favorite kung fu flicks from the '70s and '80s. But I had talked about like how like most places back in the '90s and the '80s they used to be like a kung fu theater. They would come on like during the weekends and you can watch like the old kung fu flicks, especially made by like the Shaw Brothers and the Golden Harvest. But I think the Shaw Brother movies were more popular than the Golden Harvest movies. Um, but yeah, that I think that's pretty much it. Oh, and of course, like anime movies, foreign films. I like a lot of foreign films, so stuff like that. What is the beast? What do you mean? Oh, unless you were referring to the whole Ukraine-Russian war thing I was talking about. When I was talking about what is when I said if Russia releases the beast, I'm talking about all their like technology that they could use like smart bombs and stuff like that that would completely obliterate the other side. That's what I was talking about. If that's what you're referring to when I said the beast. Do I like any video games? Not currently. I'm not a gamer. I haven't played games since like I was a teenager. Like the last system that I owned was the classic Nintendo, not Super Nintendo, not N64, not the GameCube. Classic Nintendo, the 8-bit one. That was the last system I owned because I just didn't feel like investing in every console every time one came out. So, I would play games at my friends' houses or I would go to the arcades, which is another great thing about being overseas. Like in the Philippines, they still have arcades at the malls. Like back in the 80s and early 90s. You can go to the mall and go to the arcades. Um, you can still do that in the Philippines when you go to the malls. But yeah, I used to just basically go to the arcades, or I would play at my friend's house, wherever they had Super Nintendo, Sega Genesis, N64, TurboGrafx 16. Some of y'all forgot about TurboGrafx 16, right? Um, Sega CD, all of those. Like I've played most of them, but I'm not a gamer really because I only do it if I was at a friend's house and they were playing it. I'll either watch them. They will probably ask me, "Do I want to play with them?" So cool. But I haven't been a gamer since I was a kid, basically. Doctor Stone any good? Yeah, it is good. Originally, I wasn't gonna watch Doctor Stone just because you know how like when you watch stuff on Crunchyroll, they will start pushing you to watch their newer shows on their platform, and I just got every 5 minutes they were saying fire. They were either talking about Fire Force or Doctor Stone or Spy Family. Um, and another one I'm currently watching is Chainsaw Man. But yeah, I got tired of seeing those advertisements, so it made me not want to watch the shows. But I just decided to start watching them. Oh, and Food Wars is another one. I'm watching Food Wars. But Doctor Stone is good. I don't want to give too much away, but it's basically like it's in a post it's in a post apocalyptic future with a guy who's a, a, like a scientific genius. That's all. I don't want to give too much away in case you want to see it, and I don't want to give away like the big thing that happens in the very beginning. That's gonna kind of hook you into the show. As I Sailor Moon is OP, bro. Yeah, like I said, I've watched like what 3 or 4 episodes of it so far. It's okay. I thought it was. I was scared it was going to be too girly, um, but it's not so far. Watched the series called Them. I've heard of that. Is that on Prime or is that on or is that on Peacock? I've heard of it. Um, but yeah, Pick Up a Girl in Dungeon is Fire. Yeah, that's like I said. I just finished binging the 4th season of that last week. It was so good, and it's like I'm kind of mad because the the writer of the manga has already said that he's going to end up making um what's the guy named something Cornell. He's going to end up with the warrior princess chick, but all the women in the show are crushing on him. So it seems more like a harem sort of situation. So Gustavo Gabriel Lopez no sé inglés. Voy a tratar de hablar. I'm sorry, I don't speak Spanish. So if you can use the Google Translate and put that into the and type that into the comment after you translate it through Google Translate. Because I think Google Translate is pretty decent nowadays with Spanish and French. It's just not good with non European languages. Darren Lace's Eagles, of course, with the Philly Eagles. Am I in a tractor trailer? No, that's just my curtain. Wish I had a tractor trailer. Check out Solo Leveling. I haven't heard of that. Jonathan's hymn says, "Yo, storytelling, nice, pretty decent teams." Federico Del Mundo said, "What's up? What's up, Federico?" Oh, Gustavo says, "My name is Alex. I like playing football, and I'm from Argentina." Okay, what's up, Gustavo? Um, Argentina. Okay, and you play football. So, do you play professionally? Jonathan's hymn says, "Yeah." Jonathan Light says, "Damn, bro, you killing me. No Philly teams." No, I'm not saying I don't like Philly teams. I'm just saying I lived there too briefly to get attached to sports teams. Because, like I said, by the time I was a teenager, I wasn't really watching sports like that. Like the only thing I was still following as a teenager was the Bulls. But and it was funny because moving moving to Baltimore and Philly as a teenager, in the '90s, people thought I was just deriding Jordan at the time. And I'm like, no, I'm not deriding. I'm actually from. I was like, I actually lived in Chicago for a long time. So that's I said all the Chicago teams have been my favorite teams. And so I told my friends, they was like, oh, okay, okay, because they thought I was just nut riding at first because Jordan was the most popular player at the time. I'm like, no, I've been rocking with Jordan since he first got drafted to the Chicago Bulls in the early '80s. I said it's not about me nut riding; it's about me supporting a team that I've known since I was a little kid. So, like everything to me revolved around Chicago when I was a kid. But yeah, I don't have anything against the Philly teams like the 76ers, the Eagles, the Phillies. It's just I never grew any attachment to them because I didn't live in Philly that long to have any sorts of attachment to them. But trust me, if anyone invited me to a game, of course I would go. I would go to either one of them, the football, baseball, or basketball games. I would go to any of those. Um, you know, I like living in Philly at the time was kind of touch and go for me at the time, but for reasons unrelated, I want to talk about here. But it wasn't all bad. My first girl, I had my first girlfriend was from Philly. My first girlfriend, first crush, whatever. Well, not first crush, my first girlfriend, and like first long term relationship. And I I like being in a city where there was a deli on every corner store, so I can get a hoagie or cheesesteak anywhere. Like it was a place literally like right on my block, like 2 minutes away. That's one of the advantages of living in the hood of all compared to all the disadvantages. Yeah, United States is just some kids take it so seriously, and you'll see them getting into fights, and you have to intervene. It's just how it works. Yeah. Darren says, "Dude, I'm from Philly. I love the Ravens." I don't even love the Ravens. So I mean, like. Don't get me wrong. I was happy for them when they won the Super Bowl back in was that 2003, 2002. I only remember because when I was in college at the time, I was like a super duper senior. But that's because I had spent a few years in the army, so that's why I was a super duper senior. But in any case, when it seemed like everything had revolved around Maryland at at that time 2002 2003, like we had won you know the Terps had won the NCAA basketball championship. The football team had won one of the bowls, not the big one like the Rose Bowl, but they had won one of the minor bowls, I think like the Orange Bowl or something like that. And then the Ravens ended up winning the Super Bowl. So it was a great year for Maryland, like sports wise, both like our college teams and our NFL team. Not so much for baseball because the Orioles have not been so great. The only good thing is when your when your baseball team isn't doing well, the tickets are pretty cheap. So it's pretty cheap to go to a Orioles baseball game. Something my father and I used to do quite a lot. Um, Up until like a few years ago when he and I had a falling out, which is a subject for another day. But um, yeah, I mean, I enjoy the Orioles. I'll go to Orioles game. Like I said, if I'm in Philly and someone wants me to go to a game with them, I'll go to a game with them. But I'm just saying I'm not a fan of them. Like I am a fan of the Orioles, but I'm not a fan of like the Phillies or any of those other teams. I don't. So yeah. Ramberg, he said, I saw this dude on Saturday Night Live. It's this Dave Chappelle. He trying not to laugh. Well, Dave Chappelle's not been on Saturday Night Live for at least a year, and I don't think I look like Dave Chappelle other than I cut my hair close. But every time I do a live stream, people compare me to basically any black man they've ever heard of. Like there's one guy who comes onto the live stream, says I look like Forrest Whitaker, and then says I look like Cuba Gooding Jr. Neither of those two look like resemble each other, nor do they resemble me. Cuba Gooding is light skinned. Forrest Whitaker is a fat guy who's about 70 years old. So have you watched They Live Amongst Us with Roddy Piper? No. Rowdy Piper. I thought didn't Roddy Piper hasn't passed away? I thought he I thought he passed away. No Roger Moore. I was not a fan of Roger Moore as James Bond, which is funny because the very first Bond movie I've ever seen in the movies was A View to a Kill, which was actually Roger Moore's last outing as James Bond. But that's probably why I'm not a fan because like that was the first James Bond movie I saw in the movies, and it wasn't that great. Like Grace Jones was the Bond girl in that film, and I'm sorry, Grace Jones was the ugliest Bond girl I've ever seen. Christopher Walken was the bad guy. I mean, you can't go wrong with Christopher Walken, but Roger Moore has always been too campy for me. The reason why I like Daniel Craig the best out of all of them is because he's been the most realistic and dark version of James Bond. Like someone who does the stuff that he does, I think would be more like Daniel Craig than Roger Moore. Like even I think according to the original Ian Fleming novels, I think Daniel Craig personality fits more of the way that Ian Fleming sketched out the character in the novels than some of the other actors who've portrayed him, including Roger Moore, Sean Connery, the guy who've only played him once, and Timothy Dalton. Timothy Dalton was my second favorite guy as well because again he's also a dark, brooding version of James Bond. To me, that is more appealing to me that someone who's an intelligence officer who kills people and stuff like that would be a moody, sort of brooding sort of person, not some guy spouting cheesy one-liners like Roger Moore used to do. So, but I've watched all the classic James Bond movies. The only thing I haven't watched was the parody movie with Woody Allen, but that wasn't like a real James Bond movie. It was like a parody film. That's the only thing I haven't seen. But I've seen every single other James Bond film from the beginning to No Time to Die. Rand Berkey says, "Dude, They Live is one of the best movies ever. I think this dude was in that movie." Okay. Jason's Ben Affleck sucks as Batman to me. I don't think so. The funny thing, I remember back in 2013 when they first um, announced that he was going to play him, and man, I hated it so much. I remember I and a bunch of other friends online kept clowning Ben Affleck playing Batman. We're like, this guy can't play Batman. He's like, I was like, he already sucked as Daredevil back in 2003, and I forgot what other character he played, but I was like, he can't play superheroes. He's goofy. Then come to find out, once Batman versus Superman: The Dawn of Justice come out, that movie sucks, but he's the best part of it. He actually played the most comic book accurate version of Batman outside of him killing people. If you took away the fact that he was killing people, he was like the most comic book accurate Batman I've seen on film. Um, to me, Robert Pattinson has been the worst portrayal of him, and I'm including George Clooney. Like, I don't blame George Clooney for his portrayal of Batman. I think the movie sucked. But George Clooney was good as Batman. I think he was a believable Bruce Wayne, and he was okay as Batman. But he made a pretty good Bruce Wayne. Robert Pattinson didn't come off as a believable Batman or as a believable Bruce Wayne. As Bruce Wayne, he's supposed to like blend in with the elite. Instead, he's acting all emo. Like Bruce Wayne has never been emo because anyone who's a Batman fan that knows Batman is his real personality. Bruce Wayne is just his persona he puts on for the public. So, being that Bruce Wayne is the persona, he has never been emo. Like, if you're gonna be a brooding vigilante that stalks the night, it kind of would make sense for you not to be a moody, brooding person in your personal life as well, in your public life. But I think the Batman sucked, and people saying it was more realistic don't know what the fuck they're talking about. Godfather, yeah. Oh, yeah, I forgot. Yeah, I love mob movies. Godfather 1, Godfather 2. Godfather 3 is okay. It's funny they in Godfather 3 that the Catholic Church was the bad guy. But Goodfellas is I don't know how many times I watched that. I made my wife watch Godfather 1 and 2 with me and Goodfellas. I said this in a previous live stream too cuz it's funny. Since she's not American, and English isn't her first language, she was confused when we watched Godfather. She was wondering why they were talking so funny, and I had to explain to her that they were speaking in a Sicilian dialect, and that also they had a New York accent, which is very um a very pronounced way of talking. So there's something behind you. Yeah, okay. Kriya says, damn. Justin wants says, gotta go. Have a good night, sir. You too, Justin. Thank you for chiming in. If you guys can, hit the like, hit the share, notifications, subscribe, all that good stuff. I'm not gonna keep saying that. Trust me. He's just being polite, Kriya. He's not. We gotta stop saying that people being polite is tantamount to being gay. It's not. Karate Juice said, "Can I shout out my boy such and such? It's his birthday. Sounds like a fake name, so I'm not saying that." And seriously, again, Gen X guys, none of these none of these things you're doing is new. Like, you're probably Gen Z, maybe a millennial, but you're probably Gen Z if you think something like that is new under the sun for someone who grew up in the '90s. It's not. Try something new, or you know, be smarter. But if you continue, you will get banned. That goes for you too, Kriya, because that's not a real name. Sometimes I'll go along and shout out these fake things, to go along with the joke, but no. I want to talk about geeky and nerdy stuff, so if you can't contribute to that, see yourself out. Gundam, yep. I've just watched the first Gundam movie a few months ago. I had it on my Netflix watch list for like 3, 4 years. I finally watched the whole thing because I could never just sit through it because it's so slow paced because it's out of like 1980. But I've watched that. I actually have a Gundam right here that I haven't finished building yet. That's because I didn't know that there was different grades, and the first one I picked up was the master grade. So I'm slowly building it, but I had no idea it would take so long. Like it would be so um, intense to make a master grade build. And if I had known that that's what I was getting, I wouldn't have bought it. I would have bought the kind is already built for you. So yeah, definitely a Gundam fan. Jay says, all right, I'm gonna check out Dr. Stone out next time on here. I'll tell you what I think. Cool. Yeah, do that because, like I said, I think Dr. Stone's it's pretty good. It gets you hooked on the, like a good anime is the kind that gets you hooked on the first episode. Like something happens in the first episode that gets you hooked. So that did that for me. That first episode, right? And then the whole first like two, three, four, 5 episodes, it's just stuff happening that's gonna be like, wow, okay. So similarly, a new show that I just started watching, and I know you guys are gonna say, "Where have you been in the last 15 so years?" But I just started watching Mad Men, literally like 3 days ago. Just started watching Mad Men, and it's good. The only thing, the reason I thought about watching it was because there's a new Netflix movie with Jerry Seinfeld in it called Unfrosted, and it's like a fictional history of how Pop Tarts got started in the 60s. And so they're thinking of like ads to how to market breakfast cereal because it's supposed to be like between Kellogg's and Post cereal, and they're both like arch rivals. And Jerry works for Kellogg, and Amy Schumer works for Post cereal. So automatically, I'm gonna think Post cereal is evil just because the character played by Amy Schumer is the boss. But in any case, and there's like Jim Gaffigan, I think, is the boss of Kellogg cereal, and Jerry's like right under him. And they're looking how to market these cereals and market the new Pop Tarts, and they bring in Don Draper from Mad Men to help them advertise the new Pop Tarts. So after I saw that, I was like, all right, I was like, all right, this is funny. I'm actually going to have to watch Mad Men. Plus, I remember them referencing Mad Men and How I Met Your Mother when they were like out on the rooftop of Barney's building one day, smoking cigars. And they was like, "We're Mad Men." He's like, "Yeah, we're like Mad Men." I'm like, "All right, I gotta watch this show because it just kind of highlights a time when I guess men could be actually men without being shamed for it and called toxic masculinity." All right, Karate Juice, you are gone. Kendrick or Drake, get this every time. Kendrick. I've like Drake has some like catchy music, especially like when I'm exercising. But I've never thought him as a real, as a serious. I've never taken him seriously. Like I'm not gonna take someone seriously claiming like they're blood or like they're gangster when you're a half Jewish kid from Canada. Just Canada itself just completely blands you from talking about being in that life. You're not in that life if you're from Canada. But you're a suburban half Jewish kid that starred on a teeny bop TV show. It's like everything about his personality is disingenuous to me. So it is not even about the rap music. And then if you go to the rap music, then he gets exposed for using ghostwriters. So I'm like, fuck him. So yeah, Kendrick all the way. And we're not going to even get into the other allegations against Drake. Like they're both going at each other. Like Drake accuses Kendrick of domestic violence, and Kendrick has the allegations against Drake for being, you know. So Jay says it's an old movie from the '80s. Rowdy puts these sunglasses on, and he can see these aliens that exploit humans. So I've seen a movie with Rowdy Piper in the '80s with him and this black dude. I don't remember the name of it, but I don't remember aliens being in it. It was just sort of like a cheesy action flick, but I don't remember it being sci-fi. I know he's did like a bunch of movies. Well, not a bunch, but I know he did a couple of movies in the '80s. But the only one I remember was like an action flick, and it didn't have aliens from what I remember. Jay says Ben makes a good Bruce Wayne, but not Batman. No, I disagree. Like I said, I think as far as the most comic book accurate Batman on the silver screen, like he was the most comic book accurate. Like he was built like Batman, and of course with the CGI and stuntman or whatever, he moved like Batman. He even put fear in people. Like he was the first like Batman on screen that actually seemed scary. Like when the cop was scared when he was in the corner, hidden in the corner of the in that room in the warehouse, and he just jumped out of nowhere. Like he was the first Batman that's actually scary. Like when you like from the criminal's point of view, he he was the most comic book accurate Batman to me. Like I said, but him going around killing and branding people was definitely not very Batman. But as far as how he looked, moved, and acted, like he seemed the most comic book accurate of all the Batman portrayals on the silver screen so far. We'll see about this new guy that James Gunn comes up with. I don't think they've announced who it's going to be, but I know the guy from what's that CW show? I know he wants to play Batman in the films, and he does the voice of Batman in a lot of the DC animated movie films. So but I know he wants to actually play the live action Batman in the new DCU version, which is going to be kind of based on the Brave and the Bold um, run of Batman, where he had his son Damian, his actual son Damian Wayne. So that's going to be the new Batman that James Gunn is going to do. He's going to do a movie based on a younger Batman who finds out he has a son, which is Damian Wayne. So I don't know who's going to play him, but I hope he does a good job. Because like I said, Ben Affleck was one of he went from being the most hated to the most beloved portrayal of Batman. Like most people didn't like the DCEU movies, but they liked Ben Affleck's portrayal of Batman within those movies. He said he forgot about Daredevil. Yeah, it's better to forget about it because that movie was horrible. Like I think that's how he and what's her name, they met on set. That's when they started dating because he had left Jennifer Lopez at the time and got with the girl who played Elektra in Daredevil, and they got married and had kids in real life. Um, it's ironic. So people were talking about when he got started dating Jennifer Lopez again last year and got married to her. They was like, "What is this like?" People were saying, "What is this like the 2000s all over again?" Because he was back with Jennifer Lopez and then he was playing a superhero and all this sort of stuff. So yeah, so the movies they're loosely based on comic series. Like usually they'll cobble together different things. Like the Dark Knight trilogy, for instance, I keep laughing at people saying the Batman with Robert Pattinson is based on Batman Year One. That's why it's supposed to be more grounded. I was like, so was the Dark Knight trilogy. Literally the first movie is called Batman Begins, and they take heavily from Batman Year One and the other great Batman graphic novel, the Long Halloween, is um, pretty much the Dark Knight movie. The second movie is based on the Long Halloween, and it's based on the Man Who Laughs, which is a which was a graphic novel that concentrated on the Joker, stuff like that. So yeah, so they'll take inspiration from different stuff, but there's it's really not a one to one sort of thing. Usually, the only time you have like a one to one sort of thing between the books and the movies are the animated films. Like the DC animated films are the best things they make. Like right now they're doing Crisis on Infinite Earths Part One, Part Two, and Part Three is supposed to be out in July. It's okay so far, but the new animated films aren't as good as the ones they did like 5 years ago. I already asked him Darren. I said Kendrick. Jay says year one he was emo. He had to learn to be normal. Not really. So because I literally have Batman here. So because people think I make up stuff all the time, right? Well, I'm not saying you, of course, or anyone here, but people don't realize like when I talk about I'm a nerd and I read stuff like I literally so Batman year one. Um, the in Batman year one, like the common excuse for why he's not a very good Batman in the movie is people keep saying, well, that was Batman year one. He wasn't yet seasoned. I'm like, yeah, he did make a lot of mistakes in Batman year one, but he had all his skills already in Batman year one. Because when I keep saying it's stupid stuff like how did he get stumped by a Spanish double entendre about rats and bats and stuff like that, I was like, he's literally a polyglot, which means someone who can speak fluently like several languages. I was like, he's like one of the smartest people in the world. And the only person smarter than him is Lex Luthor, and he's a polymath, which means he's a genius level intellect, all this sort of stuff. He wouldn't have got stumped by a simple double entendre about La Rata. Like, that was just dumb. And I was saying he's also a ninja, and he was trained as a ninja a long time before he became Batman. So I think he would know how to. He wouldn't just be walking around like just walking up to people's houses, knocking on the door like, "Hey." It was just stupid. The worst part to me is being someone who's trained in like firearms and stuff is the fact that he had on this bulletproof armor and he's just walking through bulletproof fire. I mean, through he's just walking through gunfire with no effect. Like, that's not how bulletproof armor works. Like, there's still basic physics involved. It's going to knock him on his ass. Like, even that was shown even in the other movies, like Batman 1989 with Michael Keaton. When he got shot, it knocked him out. Or with Christian Bale in the Christopher Nolan movies. But yeah, he was rough hewn in Batman Year One because he was still trying to work out how to navigate the criminal world, and that's how he figured he should don the mask and take on the persona of a bat to put fear in people. But all his talents were already there before he put on the mask, and that's what people don't understand when it comes to Batman Year One. But yeah, he was making a lot of mistakes and getting beat up because originally he was just going around as a vigilante without any uniform on, so people had no fear of him. So he kept getting into more fights that way. But once he used the mask and his intimidation tactics, he was more effective as a superhero. So that was the difference in Batman Year One, and then Batman Year Two isn't even considered canon. So most people don't even consider Batman Year Two as the follow up to Batman Year One. They consider the Long Halloween as like the sequel to Batman Year One. The Long Halloween is when Commissioner Gordon, and Two Face get together to get rid of the mob in Gotham, like how you see in the Dark Knight, pretty much. Jay says Batman is my favorite, so most actors make a good Batman and trash Bruce, or a good Bruce lucky Batman. Yeah. So yeah, it's hard to find a movie where the actor does both a great job as Batman and a great job as Bruce. I mean, but we've come close. I think Christian Bale's he's a really good Bruce Wayne. I think most people agree that he's probably a better Bruce Wayne than the Batman. But that's only because in Christopher Nolan's Dark Knight trilogy, it's supposed to be a world in which superheroes don't actually exist. So that's why I said the whole movie, The Batman, is unnecessary because it's not more grounded than the Dark Knight trilogy. The Dark Knight trilogy is way more grounded because it's supposed to be a world where there's no superheroes. This is not like the regular DC universe. Like the Nolan verse is a world where there aren't superheroes. So this is how Batman would actually be in the real world. So it's more grounded to me than the Batman actually is. Um, and he's probably a better Bruce. I think Christian Bale might slightly be a better Bruce Wayne than a Batman. Ben Affleck is definitely a better Batman than Bruce Wayne. George Clooney was a better Bruce Wayne than Batman. Um, what's the guy name? The guy from Top Gun that played that also played Batman. He, I think both Bruce Wayne and Batman, the way he played him, were both kind of mid to me. And then Michael Keaton was just awesome. That's to me the Michael Keaton's GOAT status. He was a weird Bruce Wayne, but it worked, and he was a good Batman that wasn't as intimidating, but it still worked. And then there's Adam West, who I'm not gonna I can't knock Adam West because that was like my first time ever seeing a live action Batman. I was watching the old syndicated Batman TV shows. Bethany says hello. What's up, Bethany? J.A.C said Drake did 911. Darrell says Arbery. So is his real name Arbery Graham? Is that why Kendrick says meet the Grahams? That's his real name, Arbery Graham. What's up with the constant oil ups? Calm down, sir. A lot of storytelling in Gundam, yeah. So, there's a series that I want to watch. I have it on Crunchyroll in my watch list, but I haven't watched it yet. It's the newer one that came out on Adult Swim, like like a while back, like a long while back. But I heard that was like the best. A lot of people have argued it's the best Gundam series that they've done. Was the one that came out on Adult Swim like a decade or so ago. I can't remember that version, but I'm going to watch that too. But I literally just have so much anime to get to, and I just don't have time to watch it all. Dilfa says I like Dr. Stone, but they really need to make an anime based off in hard science like the three body problem. I'm pretty sure they probably have one. Anime is so wide, like there's there's literally every genre of literature there is a corresponding anime to literally everything because anime is easier to make for these Tokyo studios because it's cheaper than making live action, and they don't really have the budget to produce um, live action stuff in Japan like they do here in Hollywood. In Hollywood with big budget movies and or TV shows. So they produce more anime, which also they found out has an international following. So there's literally like an anime for everything. So I'm pretty sure you can find something that's just hard nosed science in anime. Like my favorite is fantasy. Jay says check out Kyagu number 8. I haven't watched Mad Men. Yeah, I'm literally just on the fourth episode. Um, but yeah, I just started watching Saturday or Sunday. Yes, Saturday I think. You ever watch Oz? Yeah, I watched it when it first came out as a kid. Scared the shit out of me. I was like, I don't want any parts of prison. I just assume. I mean, now I've known people who've gone to prison, so I know Oz is completely fictional. But Oz, it's because of Oz that actor who plays the dude on Spider-Man. I'm still scared of that guy. I'm still scared of that guy because of the role he played in Oz when he just kept graping the other white dude who came there, and then it was like every episode someone was either getting graped or killed. Like that show terrified me for prison. Like if that was the what they were going for, that sensationalism to scare people to never break law and go to prison, well served. That TV show used to terrify me. I don't think I watched it like the last season or so, but I watched like most of it to have been terrifying and see the people who came in at the beginning of the series as victims later being the victimizers in the prison, and the corruption of like the people who ran the prison, which was they had my boy Zed from Ghostbusters running the prison, I think. But Yeah, I definitely watched it. I shouldn't have. At my age, I probably shouldn't have watched it. Like a skinny Magic Johnson. Come on, guys. Like, seriously. You guys say I look like literally every black person you've ever heard of. I don't look. I don't. Magic Johnson is, when, in his younger days, he was a fly dude. I'm guessing, but I don't see any resemblance. Um, yeah, Darren Light says, of course, Kendrick. Right. Man did the soundtrack to Black Panther. Mr. Morale makes your soul search. I haven't heard that. Kendrick roasting him alive. I remember that movie. Jay says I was mad about the Flash, the dude from CW does so good. Yeah, like a lot of people were saying they wanted the guy from the CW to play him. Now at least they did do a crossover. I don't know if you saw that on but they only did it on the CW show. They didn't do it in the movies, but they did do a crossover where they had Ezra Miller playing the Flash on the CW, showing him like, since the Flash can get into all these sort of multiverse shenanigans. He actually met the Ezra Miller Bridger from the DCEU in one episode. But yeah, he's a much better Flash. Like, for one thing, they just keep getting the Flash wrong in both the CW and the movies. They get him wrong. First of all, he's blonde haired. I know that's a trivial thing, but he's a blonde haired guy. Two, he's not a jokey person. Like, the Ezra Miller's version of the Flash acts more like Wally West. He doesn't act like like the Flash, and neither does the CW guy. Like, he's a little bit more like him, but again, he has more of a personality similar to Wally West in the CW as well, because the you know he's not supposed to be a jokey dude. Like, he was a he was like a police scientist or criminal scientist. He was pretty hard nosed, and he was considered like as almost as good of a detective as the Batman was. He wasn't like this jokey, lighthearted character. So that they keep messing him up. So maybe in the new James Gunn version, maybe they'll make a more realistic version of the Flash. I mean, if they're gonna go with Wally West, that's fine. Just make Wally West, but don't make. But otherwise, like, keep the original personality from the comic book. It would be like making Batman have a whole different personality than being moody and brooding, and then still calling it the Batman. Dilfer says, I'm just tired of DC not being able to get it right. All these reboots are so tiring. I know, right? So I'm not really invested in anything coming forward. Like, we'll see. Once they have the trailer come out for the Superman next year, we'll see if it's worth going to see. But for me, Superman's always going to be Clark. I mean, not Clark Kent. Of course, Clark Kent. Christopher Reeves. Like, when you look at Christopher Reeves, he just looks like Superman. Like, if you came up to him, as a kid, you wouldn't think he's an actor. You would think he's like Superman. That's how much Christopher Reeves looked like the character. Jennifer Garner, yeah, that's the actress who played Elektra and Ben Affleck married and had kids with, after he left Jennifer Lopez for her. And now he and Jennifer Lopez are getting divorced, so they still can't work it out. And I'm not sure it's really his fault. I don't think Jennifer Lopez will ever have a stable relationship in the long term. Um, she's the Puerto Rican Marilyn Monroe. So Popcorn says no lo entiendo. Can we get a big shout out to my schizophrenic son? Um, I don't, I don't want to say that because I don't know what that means. But I'm pretty sure it's a joke on me. So I'm not doing any shout outs to anyone if I don't. if I think it's an insult. Not today. And if someone wants to translate what he said to me, because I'm not gonna repeat it here. If it's not something that's a joke, sure I'll shout it out. But otherwise, no. You're not gonna catch me slipping just because it's in another language. Therefore says, oh well, yeah. TX Carnage 817 says Dallas and 6. I guess you're referring to a game. Jay says I would love to see a good year one, like the animated version, DC animated animation chops Marvels. So, I mean, as far as I know, DC doesn't. Neither DC nor Marvel Studios. I mean, neither DC Studios nor Marvel Studios makes like superhero movies. It's going to be a one-to-one correspondence to like any of the graphic novels. But Batman Begins is a really good movie for people who like Batman Year One, and so is The Dark Knight. I think it borrows heavily from both Year One and Long Halloween. Um, but I don't think either one of those studios are going to do like a one-to-one correspondence to any of their graphic novels. I haven't seen it yet, and anytime they do have like a title for something that correlates to one of the graphic novels or one of the yearly runs, it's never the same. Like Age of Ultron was nothing like the comic books. Um, um, Civil War was nothing like the run in the comic book. Um, None of those. Even some of the animated stuff has changed a lot. Like Hush, I hated how they changed Hush, like the Batman Hush animated film, where instead of having Thomas Elliot, Dr. Thomas Elliot, who was Batman's like best friend as a child, ended up Hush ended up being the Riddler. I don't know why they did that, but yeah, you'll rarely ever see like a one-on-one correspondence with either the live action films or the animated films and one of the graphic novels. Almost always the graphic novels are better. Which comic you said you used to own one? Um, yeah, like I said, I got stuff on my shelves and stuff in my thing right here. So it's I got so many comic books. But I keep like most of my hard covered books on the shelf where my paperbacks or my single issue comics I keep in a comic book storage. Jay says polymath genius in several areas. Yeah, so it it's funny that Batman is considered a human, but he has like any one of his abilities is possible by a human, but not all of them all together. Like he's a polymath, he's a polyglot. He's the second smartest man in the world, second to only Lex Luthor. Um, he's the best detective in the world, if you're not including Doctor Chimp. I mean, Detective Chimp, who's not human, so and he's an animal, so I don't think most people count him. He's the best tracker. I think he's if he's not the best, he's one of the best trackers in the world. He's the best strategist and tactician in the world. Um, he's the second best with weaponry, with the best being the Green Arrow himself with projectile weapons, but he's like second to Green Arrow in projectile weapons. He's the best martial artist in the world who's mastered 127 different forms of martial arts, including the Kryptonian martial art that he was taught by Superman. Um, he you know he bench presses of 1,000 pounds. And his workout routine is insane. Like there's a book called The Batman Files, and it actually gives you his workout routine. It's insane. All his talents and abilities. this is not merely a mortal man, and Amanda Waller considers him a metahuman, even though he's human. But she considers him a metahuman because he had once healed himself using nth metal. So I guess nth metal is the DC equivalent of what's the same magical metal in I forgot in Marvel. I can't remember. I want to say Uru metal, but Popcorn says I broke my I1, I2, and I3 in my spine in a motorcycle wreck last year. I couldn't walk for 4 months, but yet here I am riding a Yamaha R6. Don't give me no excuses. Yeah, what I'll say about that, guys, is there are some reckless bike riders out there. Like I remember in Planet Fitness, this guy was there, and he's one of those dudes that just comes to Planet Fitness that don't even work out. They just come there just to talk, which I don't understand. Like Planet Fitness is not a it's not the type of gym where you just hang out. But he just comes there and he was talking about his love of bikes and how many times he's got into accidents and stuff. And the way he talked about it, it just sounded like he just had a death wish. Like that's probably the reason I haven't got a motorcycle is because I'm not trying to make my wife a widow. For what? Just to say I have a motorbike? Nah. And which is funny because motorcycles are actually pretty popular in the Philippines because they're cheaper for most people than cars. Um, but traffic over there is insane, so I definitely wouldn't want to drive one over there. Even though most people drive motorcycles than cars over there, I just don't have that death wish. Batman Azrael needs a movie. Yeah, I'm trying to think if he was in any of the animated ones. Uh, I think he might have been in one of the animated films, maybe one, but it wasn't like, but they didn't do one like with his backstory. Like they should just do the whole Night Bane backstory, showing, Bruce Wayne, showing when Batman first encounters Bane, that how Bane basically set up everything to release all the prisoners from Gotham and Blackgate prison, so that Bruce Wayne tired himself trying to round up all these criminals, and by the time he finally captures all these criminals, then Bane corners him in the Batcave, then breaks his back, and that's when he then decides to rehabilitate himself, and then appoints Azrael as Batman for him to watch over Gotham while he's away. That would be a. I'm surprised they haven't made an animated version of that. I don't think we're going to see a live action version unless James Gunn is into that. But I'm surprised they haven't done an animated version of the whole Nightbane story yet, because that would make a good animated movie, and it would probably have to be like 2 or 3 movies to do it well. Is that bow? Oh, you saw the bow staff? Yeah, that is a bow staff. It is. A bunch of weapons around here. Boken, um, bunch of yeah. I'm, I didn't even realize that you could see that. Popcorn says that physical therapy until insurance would no longer pay for it. I was in a dark place for a long time. Yo, that sucks. And by the way, like I said, if you were serious about your son, I'm sorry. I just thought you were trying to, be funny. But, I hope you've recovered from your therapy. And I hope that does give you pause before, you know, being on a motorcycle. I'm not going to say don't use your motorcycle, of course, because that might be your main form of transportation. But I wouldn't be reckless on it, right? So, and I live in Baltimore. The traffic is so bad here that I'm terrified to ride a bike here. Maybe in my younger years I'd have been more reckless, but now that I'm in my 40s, I don't want to. I don't want to take that risk. Now that I actually have a wife. Back in my 20s, when I was single and younger and stupid, I wouldn't have cared. I probably would have had a motorcycle too. One more spill and I'm gone. Yeah, don't take any unnecessary risks. Like if you need to just drive a car, a truck, do that, or even public transportation. Like I just wouldn't risk it knowing how much you had to go through to recover. Dell says, "Damn, insurance is such a scam. Sometimes pay for all the time when you don't need it, but when you need it, they're like, nah, yeah." That's why some people want universal health care, but I don't want to get this into anything political. Haven't read The Long Halloween. Got to find that one. Yeah, you got to read that. And it has a. The funny thing is, The Long Halloween actually, there's something that the writers Jeff Loeb and the artist Tim Sale actually wrote before The Long Halloween. It's called The Haunted Night, which was all about like Halloween. So The Haunted Night. This is good. That's actually like happens before The Long Halloween, but The Long Halloween is sort of considered a sequel, like the unofficial year two to Batman Year One, because the actual Batman Year Two, written by Todd McFarlane, people don't didn't like it. It was like kind of rejected when it came out. But yeah, get Long Halloween, and then the sequel to the Long Halloween is called Dark Victory. All of these are well written, and the artwork is great. Dark Victory is the sequel to Long Halloween. Um, Originally, when they had made the Long Halloween, the animated film, they actually wanted it to be like the artistic style of the books, but I think due to budgetary concerns, they decided they couldn't do it because the way they wanted to do the DC animated movie universe back like 12 years ago, starting with the Flashpoint paradox, because like the whole DC animated movie universe was roughly like the whole new 52 continuity. But what they originally wanted it to do is that each movie they wanted it to be in the artistic style of the books that it came from, but they decided it was too expensive, which is why now the after they rebooted the DC animated movie universe and it's called the Tomorrowverse. Now all the movies, regardless of the storyline, they all have the same artwork, and it sucks. It's a very generic, heavily like black line drawn type of animation, and it really takes away from the stories because some of the stories are pretty good, but the way it's illustrated looks horrible because every every movie under the Tomorrowverse banner looks the same. Yeah, I'm with Dilford here. I'm too much of a pussy to attempt it. Like I might still get a bike, but I'm probably gonna only drive it like in the countryside. I'm not gonna drive it in the city. Dilford said I rode as a passenger. That speed you feel is exhilarating. Yeah, I remember my cousin invited me to ride with him on his bike, but I was like, that seemed kind of zesty to be passenger on a bike with another guy, so I never did it. Going 160 of a day, most alive I've ever felt, to be honest. See, need to stop that. 20 going 160. Come on, man. That's being reckless. 160. Like I know it feels exhilarating to be zipping down the road in a bike, but at the end of the day, is it worth it? Oh shoot, I didn't even know how late it was, guys. It's midnight. I'm gonna have to um end this soon. Sorry about that. I still wanted to just touch base with guys because I try to do a little quick live stream every day. But I'm gonna get to all the comments and I'm gonna end this. Delph says it's funny because I love skydiving, so there really shouldn't be a reason for me not to get a motorcycle. It's not the same. I think skydiving is a more mitigated risk because Uh, well, one, unless you you know, unless you've gotten your qualification to free jump on your own, you're gonna have you're gonna have a licensed um, parachutist on your back that make sure everything is okay. And it's very rarely though that 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 there's mishaps with that. And when I was in the military, if you wanted to go airborne, um, you didn't really have to worry about it. Like when you came out the plane, it pulled the cord for you. So I don't think it's the same level of risk. Motorcycles are way more dangerous than skydiving. Mike, you said Mike was good, but Adam West is the goat. Yeah. Popcorn says I would never skydive. That takes some balls that I don't got. See, you guys are at two different ends. Like to me, so here's the way I see it, and I could be wrong. I think skydiving is scarier, but motors, but being on a bike is more dangerous. Like you're more likely to get injured or die from riding a bike than skydiving. But skydiving is way more scary. I would rather skydive too. I'm mad that I didn't go to jump school when I was in the army because right out of my advanced training, they actually came around and asked us did we wanted to do it, and I wasn't scared to do it. The only reason I didn't do it was because I wanted to hurry up and get home and get to my permanent duty station, so I didn't want to prolong my training, and which wasn't a big deal because at the time I didn't realize the jump school was like only like I think 3 weeks long, so I could have did that, got my got my wings, got my extra hazard my extra pay because now I'm a qualified um, paratrooper, and it would have been fun. Plus, if I wanted to skydive on the civilian side, I now have this qualification that I can free jump without having to have a a parachutist on my back when I go to skydive. I could do it on my own. So I wish I did that at the time. Joyful Glacier says, "What's up, brother? What's up? Glad to see you back." Um, Daryl says, "I think it's much safer. It is, like I said, it's safer than riding a motorcycle. A motorcycle, skydiving is scarier, but motorcycle is way more dangerous. It's just like how people think about crashes, like car crashes versus plane crashes. You're more than likely to get injured or killed in a car crash than a plane crash, but plane crashes are just scary to think about. But plane, but you know, but traveling by plane is the safest way to travel. But of course, it's terrifying to think of a plane crash." Wu says, "What the skibbity toilet is going on?" Just a random conversation. I wanted to talk about geeky things, whether it's like sci-fi, comic books, superheroes, Star Wars, trading cards, games, video games, all that sort of stuff. But this is about to end, Wu. Popcorn says, "I'll keep it on the ground 100. And yes, I've lost friends on motorcycles and this shit is terrible." That's what I'm saying. You need to think about that next time you want to push it up to 160. It's not worth it, man. I know it's exhilarating, but when you're accelerating, you don't know that there's a tiny little bump on that road. You don't know some glass shards. You don't know if someone's going to jump, or you don't know if a car is going to come out. It's not worth it to like from the I think a lot of people who end up getting injured on motorcycles, all of them are like pushing it, like doing risky stuff by speeding or weaving through traffic. Yeah, what's up, Joyful? Just chewing the breeze, talking about geeky, nerdy stuff. But I'm actually about to end this because I didn't realize it was so late. What did I think of Star Trek Discovery? Never. No. Well, I watched the first episode, bored me, couldn't get into it. Didn't like the way they rebooted the Klingon. Didn't like the story with her starting off as being raised by the Vulcans. I just in like the storyline, so I didn't watch it. I watched Picard, but I only watched the first season of Picard because since he literally died after the first season, I didn't see the point of watching the the next two seasons of him as like basically like a glorified like android or whatever you want to call it, with his like basically his psychological connectedness into in a new body. Like to me, that wasn't Picard. I think the first season was the end of his life, so I couldn't get into Picard season 2 or 3. But I like Picard way better than Discovery. Like I said, I couldn't get past the first episode. What's your favorite Kanye album? Uh, I guess the first one. Joyful Glaciers said, y'all messed up. Let the man live. Daryl said, damn, I bet, man, praying for your safety, brother. With skydiving, you just have to make sure your equipment is good, and the only other reason you can die is if you have a heart attack or a seizure. Oh, yeah. But I'm pretty sure you signed like a waiver to declare that you are healthy doing it. Because obviously, if you have a pre-existing heart condition doing that, then you're being foolhardy and going out to go skydiving with that sort of condition. Who's high? Are you referring to me or someone else? Oh, we got someone from the Philippines. What's up, Mela? What's going on? It's afternoon over there. What part of the Philippines are you from? Andrew one says hi. Joyful Glaciers is Word is Bond. Mr. Morales is a Kendrick album. Okay. All right, Joyful Glaciers. Time out for you, guy. Um, Jason, shout out to Christopher Reeves. Yeah, and he actually was bodybuilding to so that he could fit that role. And he was bodybuilding with Robert Prowse, the who was the body of Darth Vader in the original trilogy. Robert Prowse was I think I don't know, I think he was a professional bodybuilder or amateur bodybuilder. So they got him to play the role as Darth Vader because he looks physically intimidating. He worked with several other celebrities to get them in shape for their roles, including Christopher Reeves. Chris the grasshopper off Bugs Life looking okay. I give you like I said, I give you guys your one snipe, and then once it keeps going on, then you get timed out. Then if it continues happening over a series of live streams, then you just get banned from the channel. But I don't mind people getting their little sniping. I have a sense of humor, and I don't get easily offended. But if it drags down the conversation, then that's different. Plus, I'm about to end this, so if it's not really gonna be relevant, you know. Wicked Joke says, "Have you heard the phrase 'cut the tall trees', and do you know what it means?" Nope, I haven't. Anus Ripper is gone. Jay says the year one you showed me all mine got destroyed thousand. Wait, what? So you had a huge collection and it got destroyed like a fire or something? I mean, you can buy the good thing is you can buy these trade paperbacks pretty cheap. Like you can buy them used either like on eBay or Amazon, or you can just buy them right from like the comic book store or whatever new, and they're still not gonna cost a lot because they're old. They're old, and most trade paperbacks cost an average of about what $20, especially smaller ones like that. The larger trade the larger trade paperbacks and graphic novels might cost like 30, 40, $50. But the ones that cost like $50 are usually like the huge collections, like the omnibus and stuff like that. But you can get some of your favorites back for rather cheap. But I wouldn't blame you if you didn't want to after you've had a whole collection destroyed. Wicked Jokers. Well, I didn't know. I didn't presume to know what your ethnicity was, Wicked Joker. But since you're gonna be a clown, you're gone. Duh, 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 duh. Uninvolved big time side. That's my man. How you are? How are you, dude? I'm doing well. Doing well. Daryl says, I think it's okay for movie adaptations to be not too lore accurate. Otherwise, you have some characters who are omega level gods who can only be stopped through Deus Ex Machina. Not just that, but I think for a lot of reasons, it's gonna be hard to have like a one-to-one like correspondence between a movie and a comic book, and sometimes actually doing even if it's not pragmatic reasons why you can't do a one-to-one correspondence, sometimes you don't want a one-to-one correspondence with the books because some of the stuff in the books are too over the top. Like Spawn, Todd McFarlane ensured that when they made the first live action of Spawn back in the day with Michael Jai White playing Spawn, that it was like it would correspond closely to his book. But because it did so, it wasn't that good, honestly. So now, he's doing a reboot that's going to star Jamie Foxx. I, I forgot when they said it's supposed to come out, maybe next year or 2026. But they're doing a reboot of the Spawn, but this time he's changing it where it's going to be more like a horror movie. Like you're going to see Spawn from the perspective of people who see him instead of from the perspective of Spawn himself. So I think that actually might be a better take on Spawn than the way they did it back in the 90s when it was more like a correspondence to the actual comic book, because that comic book is niche. It's not everyone's taste. But if you make it more like it's a horror movie, I think it'll appeal to more people. CJ Smith's anus rip is a close relative to the Whitaker family. Don't worry, I've already banned him. Is it, yeah, Azrael's in Bat Family. Yeah, that's what I was about to say. I knew he was in one. He was in one of the films, but it was like only one, and it didn't go into his background. Yeah, Bat Family. That was the one where they had Batwoman. All they had like everybody in there. And that was like one of the final films of the DC animated universe era before it switched over to the Tomorrowverse. Yeah, I knew I saw him in one of them, but it didn't go too much. It didn't go too deeply into his story. They need to do a whole series of movies just based off the Nightbane storyline. Like I said, that could be probably like 3 movies long. Because if they're doing Crisis on Infinite Earths as three parts, they can do Nightbane as 3 parts. Have I differences? Have I thought of giving some of my viewers mods to get rid of the soy boys like Anus Ripper? Um, once is a larger once is a larger amount of people, I might do so. But for right now, my wife moderates for me. She can't do it right now. She does it when she works from home, but when she works from the office, she can't do it, of course. But when she works from home, she usually moderates for me. Plus, if she was moderating right now, she would tell me get off because it's late. So, um, for right now, it's containable. But once the audience grows bigger, I probably will have to have moderators. But for right now, the audience to me isn't big enough to need mods. But I'm gonna keep it in mind once the audience gets bigger. And like I said, plus the other thing is I don't really get easily offended. The only thing that I get annoyed by is that it takes away from the conversation that we're having. Plus, there's other people in the audience. Well, I keep saying audience, but in the chat that might get offended, whereas I don't really get offended too easily from words. Like when you when you can fight people, it just words don't really carry the same punch, pun intended. His anus ripper loves Diddy. Oh, that's funny. Have you guys seen my previous videos talking about Diddy? I've done a bunch of YouTube shorts about Diddy. We did a whole live stream last week talking about Diddy. I did a conversation with a friend in his car talking about Diddy, and I've talked about the fact that there's these hip hop podcasters that were backing him before this video came out. There's a a, a lawyer in the Black Manosphere that was basically saying that we should support this man all before the video came out. Now everyone's starting to change their tune, and I'm like, yeah, you guys are just you know full of shit because I was saying like people who've grown up listening to hip hop, especially East Coast hip hop, have known that this man has been sketchy his whole entire career. So now for these guys to say that they're not supporting him like that now, I'm like, whatever. It's sort of like it's to me these same people in the manosphere, the black manosphere that is, who are now changing their tune, saying they don't support Diddy anymore. These are sort of like the same folks in the black manosphere that used to back up Pearl, just Pearly things, and made her like the unofficial white queen of the black manosphere until she showed how racist she was, and now she's been deplatformed. Like she, her main channel had got demonetized. Well, one of her channels here on YouTube got demonetized. One of them was one of them was completely taken off. Um, she had got kicked off of TikTok as well. And then these guys start changing their tune, but these guys were all praising her, and some of them were even on her show when she was doing really well 2 years ago. And back then I said, man, fuck just Pearly things, and just like I said, fuck Diddy. But now all these guys have come to those same conclusions. Let me check some of these. And I'm sorry that I didn't catch this stuff first because I'm always like several scrolls the up in the comment section than you guys actually are. So I'm seeing the stuff probably like 5 to 10 minutes after you wrote it. So I apologize, but it's just because I'm trying to catch all the comments, and I know I'm late with it. Mario Luvian says Jesus is King, y'all. So for my fellow Christians out there, I'm not, but you know, Joseph Jones says I just stopped by to say what's up and peace to you in the chat. Thanks, Joseph. Appreciate it. Uh, two thumbs up. Two thumbs only said what's that Batman book wrapped? Yeah. So here's something. I don't. I mean, I've talked about this in one of my solo videos a long time ago, but here's the thing, guy. All my books I wrap up after I read them to preserve them. I don't like my books getting old after I read them. I don't want the pages turning and becoming brittle over time. So just like with my comic books, how I preserve them, I preserve my hardcover books too. Even my textbooks, like I put everything in like either plastic or cellophane after I'm done reading them, so I can preserve my books. I don't know when I started doing that. Um, Probably sometime like 15, 16 years ago. Um, but yeah, I literally wrap up all my books the same way I wrap up my comic books. Like just how I put people put their comic books in the sleeve when they're done. I do that with my book with my main books, like hardcover books, whether they're textbooks, graphic novels, um, reference books, stuff like that. I wrap everything up. And I mean, it's nothing just to tear it open and read them and then put them in another plastic sleeve. 40-year-old virgin, most definitely. No, I'm married. So again, I'll give you your snipe. Everyone gets one, but keep it on. You'll get timed out. I wrap my stuff up because I like preserving the things that I care about. Sorry if you're the sorry if you're the kid that used to buy your toys and immediately break them. I wasn't like that. Oh yeah, if you would talk about how hardcore of a Batman fan I am, but let me. we, you haven't seen some of my videos here, so here's some more of my stuff here. Um, Dark Knight. They made a action figure for the Christian Bale Batman. Actually got a knife. This is like actual. So, yeah. um, Bunch of stuff here. This is just my man cave, guys. So this is where I put all my junk. Oop, like a bunch of stuff here. And I got a bunch of Batman encyclopedias, like the Batman Vault. Sorry if you can see that. Batman Files, Essential Batman Encyclopedia, a bunch of other stuff here. So yeah, I'm a true Batman fan. I got T-shirts and stuff. But I got several of those Batman 1989 Toy Biz action figures because that was like my favorite toy version of him. So I have like several versions of it. Like I think up to count now, I have like maybe 7 of them. They were selling this at the Comic Con, so I had to get one of these. And they were doing the batarangs, the real ones, the metal ones. I remember people were going to the San Diego Comic Con several years ago, and TSA wasn't allowed them to board because they were bringing these with them, and I'm like, why are they stupid enough to bring these metal batarangs with them in their, on their person on a plane, knowing TSA is not going to allow them to have that. I was like, they should have put that. They just should have stuck that in their luggage, not in their carry on or in their pockets. The only time I did have a batarang in my pocket when I went on the plane, it was the foam, the little foam ones, the little party Hallmark ones they give the kids. This like foam rubber. And I remember I had that in my pocket, and the TSA guy saw it. I was like, "Yeah, batarang." He just started laughing. I was like, so he didn't have a problem with that. I had my metal ones, but I was smart. I had put that in my luggage. I didn't keep that in my pocket. Of course, I got like the Lego Batman stuff. Um, so you want to see some more of these things I have here. So yeah. So I'm a true geek, guys. That's why I said let's talk geeky stuff because I'm a geek. But yeah, I'm gonna end this, and and luckily the secret is to find a wife that doesn't mind you doing geeky stuff. So, but yeah, the secret is to find a wife that will support your geeky interests, which is fair because she's a Taylor Swift fan, so I support her Taylor Swift fandom, so she supports me in my nerdy stuff. Jim says there's always a bigger fan, yeah. So like martial arts, there's always someone better, right? There's definitely gonna be people that are bigger fans than me, like the people who have money to spend like $2 million on the very first Batman comic. Those are gonna be bigger fans than me because even if I did have the money, I'm pretty sure I'm not gonna use spend $2-3 million at an auction to buy a first printing of Batman #1 or Detective Comics #27. Jay says DC stories always good. Yeah, decent is how long you gotta be. It's all subjective taste. Like I said, there's things you like that I may not, and vice versa. No, I didn't ignore the races. But like I said, I was I had to get to those things. I'm behind in the chat than you guys are. So when I first saw him saying stuff, I immediately banned him. But by the time I caught his first things that he said, it was probably way, way down in the comment section that he had been going back and forth with the rest of you guys about stuff. But I definitely wasn't afraid to ban someone who's being offensive. Um, no, I was in the army, not a marine. Trump or Biden. Don't want to talk politics here, just geeky stuff, and I'm about to get off anyway. So, but Trump said that in many YouTube shorts and videos here. Joseph says that's okay. I got some cool white folks that could straighten you out. We're gonna see talking about what's his name. Yeah, and like Decent was saying, a lot of these trolls are guys. A lot of these trolls are kids, because I'm pretty. Well, maybe I'm being optimistic, but I just don't think most grown men have nothing else better to do than to come into online chat rooms and just do stuff like that. Most of the time, these are children, like teenage dudes or even younger, and they have nothing else better to do. Because I think most grown men have better pursuits to do than to come onto live streams and just troll. Now, to be sure, there are definitely grown men that do it, but I think the majority of trolls are probably kids. That's why I don't go too hard at them, because Ray Robles says my grandfather was the sergeant major of the Mountain Division in New York. I didn't even know they had a Mountain Division in New York for the Army. Steve Banner says, "How are you? How are you? How is you be?" I think he means how are you doing. What colors are the curtains in your house? Well, these are black, but different curtains in every room. Mm-mm-mm. But yeah, I see how you guys were going back and forth with Anus the Ripper. I mean, just the name. Some people make it like their YouTube handle alone lets you know that they're a troll. Like there was a guy in the very beginning of the chat. His name was literally Troll something, Troll Be Gone or something like that. So it's like they already know what they're doing. Like they're already cluing you in just by their YouTube handle alone that they're coming to do nothing but you know be annoying. So I'm just skipping through these. Yeah, you guys were really going at it. Simplify says, God bless you, brothers. Stay strong in God's word. Believe, repent, obey. Appreciate it, Simplify. Sound like a former Marine. Eric Guapo's back. He says, hello. What's up, Eric? He says, DC and Marvel selling compendiums and omnibuses at discounts now. Yeah, that's what I was trying to tell. I think I was talking to Dilford that he said he had a collection of stuff that burned up about $1,000 worth, and one of the ones that he used to like was the story Batman Year One, and I was saying that you can buy those omnibuses or compendiums, those collections, like pretty cheap to give you like all of that stuff, or you can just buy the single trade paperbacks for each individual story, and it's probably not gonna run you more than $20. Like I have a bunch of stuff from the 80s and 90s, and it's not even cost me $1,000 yet altogether. Mr. Rodriguez says hi. What's up, Mr. Rodriguez? Lawrence says, Lawrence says some crazy stuff here. Again, Lawrence, I give everyone one snipe, and if you keep going, then you get timed out, and then if you keep going after that and other live streams, you just get banned completely from the channel. No problem, Jay. Um, yeah, Eric DeWab says you don't need a one-to-one adaptation. Just be faithful to the story and the character. Superman is my favorite character, and I hated how dark, drape, and depressing they made him in Man of Steel. Exactly. Thank you. That's what I keep telling people that try to say, "Oh, he's a more grounded character." I was like, Superman was never meant to be grounded. I was like, DC and Hero were. Sorry, DC and Marvel were two different types of comic books. Marvel was known for the so-called Marvel realism that Stan Lee and Jack Kirby had started back in the 60s, whereas DC has always been inspirational. Like these were heroes that you aspired to be. These were gods in man's form. Like they have always been um inspirational superheroes, something that you aspire to, whereas Marvel superheroes were more realistic, something that a person could actually become, within a science fictional sort of, you know, framing, of course. But Superman was never supposed to be like you took the most positive, charismatic, like hero that everyone looks to for hope and made him moody and brooding and thought that was more realistic. That's why I couldn't get into any of Zack Snyder's movies after that. I'm like, you literally took the best superhero and turned him and tried to make him into a Batman like superhero. It's like you can't make every superhero moody and brooding. Like there's some superheroes that is a part of their personality that they're moody and brooding. That's Batman and that's Wolverine. But to make Superman emo just didn't make any sense. And then on top of that, you had him kill someone. So it was, yeah, I didn't believe there could be a bigger fan. I just found out how much I didn't know. And guys, it's more stuff right there in that book bag. It's a bunch of books and action figures in that. Oh, it's a lunchbox too. I got the classic. Let me show you. Also, I found this on eBay. It's a Batman knapsack from 1977. That's why I have it stored in this so it doesn't get ruined. Because this is actually from 1977, the year I was born. So that's once I found it was from my birth year, I had to get it. But this is actually from 1977. Um, but yeah, open this up. So the classic lunchbox, if you're not from the 80s, maybe early 90s, you wouldn't know. But even in the 90s, they didn't have the metal. They only had the plastic lunchboxes in the 90s. They didn't have the metal ones like we had. I don't have the thermos though, because I got this from actually Hallmark. Hallmark has a whole bunch of retro stuff that you can buy from like 70s and 80s. But inside, I just have a bunch of little other action figures. Like I have my Revenge of the, not Revenge, Return of the Jedi Luke here. Another Batman '89. Spider-Man, but this is the one that was released in, I believe, 2003. Right when Toy Biz was being turned into Marvel Toys, but I think this was still considered Toy Biz at the time. The Toy Biz, the first version of Wolverine, and Lego Batman keychain. But I'm thinking of trying to find the thermos. If I can find a thermos online, I'll buy it and put it in here. But this is the metal one, guys. So what else is in this thing? I have another one of I have many of these t-shirts, but this t-shirt I kept in here because it has the belt that goes around the waist. Another Batman Chronicles one. It has all the first stories from Detective Comics number 27 and so on, and from Batman number 1, like all his original adventures. I forgot what it got up to. I think it got up, the last Batman Chronicles was like Batman Chronicles number 20 or something like that. But it's all the stuff. It's all the stuff from the Golden Age. Here. Again, another Batman 89. That's my favorite action figure, aside from Luke Skywalker. And I have some of those foam batarangs I talked about that I took with me on the today when I go on that when I fly. I keep some of these little foam batarangs in my pocket, and a Batman thumb drive. This one doesn't work anymore, so I just put it in here. I bought a new thumb drive that actually does work, and I have one of the metal batarangs in here too. Maybe you can't see it. But yeah, huge Batman fan. I don't know who Mike Ray was talking to. Again, so this guy's name is Nate Higgers. So this is an obvious troll. Just like, the funny thing is, if you're gonna be a troll, at least not let everyone know you're gonna be a troll by your name. Like, it just shows that you're kind of stupid, or you're like a minor who hasn't have the forebrain capacity yet to realize that if you're gonna cause trouble, at least get your foot in the door first. But when I see a YouTube handle like that, I already know that you're gonna be a loser, so you're gone. Um, the fights is funny though. I'm not gonna lie. Yeah, they just want views, but like I said, I think a lot of them are just children because I don't think too many grown men, unless they're below average intelligence, will come onto these live streams just to say dumb stuff. But yeah, I am different. I need to go to sleep. Seriously, I did not like. This is why I need Mrs. Contrarian to moderate, because she would have had me off of here like an hour ago. Um, Eric Guap says I collect comics and comic book art, and I stash them all away, long boxes. And yeah, I have a long box for all of my single issue stuff, and some of my smaller trade paperbacks. And yep, I keep it in a dark and dry place as well. Yep, that's what I preserve all my stuff. Oh, Eric says he has some stuff that's valuable. I don't have anything that's valuable yet. Like, all the stuff I have is just purely for my own, like, my own enjoyment. But I don't have anything of value yet here. The only thing I may have of value is something not comic book related, but a old I have a Batman bank from the '60s that I got from my grandmother before she passed, and I have a old University of Maryland thing containing, I think, bourbon from like the '70s, which has never been opened. So I don't know if that's worth much money. But when I looked on eBay last time, it wasn't. But it might be actually worth a lot more than I think it is, since it's about 50 years old and it still has like the original bourbon in it. So Gumby, yeah, you saw the Gumby, Jeremy. Yep, yep. I bought. I think no, I didn't get that at Hallmark. I think I bought that online. But I always wanted the Gumby when I was a kid because I used to watch the old cartoon, and I remember going to the stores and seeing it, and I never got it, so I bought that. There's a bunch of stuff I bought as an adult now that I have the money and resources that I wanted as a kid, which is why I'm a collector, because now as an adult, I can buy the things that I wanted as a kid, but didn't have the resources to do so. Oh, and you said you have both Gumby and Pokey. I was thinking about getting Pokey, but I really just cared about Gumby, not so much Pokey. Because if I get Pokey, I'm gonna end up wanting a whole collection. Because then I'm gonna want the bad guys, the ones with those square heads. I forgot their names. Eric says I have thousands of dollars of original art and a lot of first appearances of Superman villains. Okay. Peabody says ban that trash. Hey, he's gone. He's done. Um, yeah, yeah. Hopefully it does grow in value. The problem was with the comic book market in the '90s crashed. There was a big bubble. This is why Marvel is in the state that it is in now, because there was a big crash in the comic book industry in the '90s, because back then everyone was trying to be a collector and they kept buying up all these things they thought were going to be valuable, but that's not how it works. If you have a huge supply, if you create a large supply to meet a large demand, then it's not going to be valuable. Things are only valuable because there's not a large supply of it, or if there hits a certain bubble for a particular franchise or franchises, like for instance The Walking Dead. I don't think that the stuff that came out from The Walking Dead is in rare supply because it came out in 2003. But during the height of the Walking Dead craze, if you had the first printing of Walking Dead #1, it was worth $75,000, and that was just from 2003. And if you had that back in like 2000, say 15, you were sitting on like $75,000 from something you've only had for about maybe 12 years. So so if but like I said, there was the bubble crash and Marvel almost went bankrupt. Um, and then in the '80s, DC Comics almost went bankrupt. So they both almost bought each other. So back when DC almost fell through in the '80s, Marvel almost bought them. What happened was, I think they didn't want all of DC. They just wanted Batman and Superman, I believe. And DC said no, no thanks. So they didn't. So they ended up not selling those characters. Then in the '90s, Marvel went bankrupt because of the big comic book crash, because people were buying up all these comic book stuff thinking that it was going to be valuable when it wasn't. And Marvel almost went bankrupt. To save themselves, they sold off a lot of their franchise characters to movie studios, which is why when the MCU came out, they didn't have license to use a lot of their characters, because they had already sold them to other studios to save themselves from bankruptcy back in the '90s. People like Spider-Man, the Hulk, Submariner, and a bunch of others. The MCU was formed off of the B level characters that they still owned the rights to, but all their most of their A level most of their top A level heroes were owned by other studios. Like I said, Spider Man, Hulk, Submariner, Fantastic Four, and the X Men, of course. Um, and then they had almost got sold to DC Comics, but that didn't go through either. So anyway, Eric says I almost have every issue of Spawn. Did you guys ever watch the TV show when it came out? I watched it when it first came out on HBO. It was always kind of creepy. Jeremy Lake says horror comics are where it's at. You ever read the old school horror comics, Jeremy? The old Marvel stuff from like the '60s and '70s. I think even the '50s. They had like stuff that wasn't superhero related at all. It was just like horror, like like horror stuff. There were comic books that Marvel used to do. I think DC has some too, but I think Marvel was more famous for those horror comics back in the day. A nice house by the lake is awesome too. I haven't heard of that one. So I'm not building my collection for resale. I'm preserving and enjoying. I also get into that a lot of indie comics too. Yeah, same. Like I don't collect for this for the sake of reselling them. Like I'm not that sort of collector. I buy stuff merely that I like that I want to keep, and maybe I'll pass it on to my kids if they're interested. If not, they can sell it or do whatever. But the stuff I buy is merely for my own enjoyment. Like I'm not the type of collector that buys stuff and then tries to resell them online. I'm not interested. Jeremy Lake says anything about Tenny in the fourth. Yeah, he's come here to Maryland quite a few times when he was marketing some of his new books over at Third Eye Comics. Peabody says Sanchez says, I'm sorry, I appreciate you and the geek stuff. Yeah, thanks. No problem. Jeremy Lake says Edge Lords is what they call it. Yeah. April says boy bye. Oh, okay. Didn't even know you were here, April, but oh, I'm sorry. You might be talking to the guy we I had to ban. If so, I'm sorry. Eric Guap says I'm a huge nerd. I live in SoCal, and quite a few comic book artists are around where I live. Kevin uh, Grievous being one. He comes by to LCS to sell his books and talk to fans. Plus, you used to have your YouTube thing too, right? So that's how you also talk with a lot of artists and writers. The only one I meet regularly here, the only one I know who lives in my area, in my neck of the woods, is Tom King. Like Tom King comes quite regularly to Third Eye Comics every time he has something new come out. So I've seen Tom King quite a few times, and I've met a bunch of artists at comic book conventions too. But um, yeah, I've seen Tom King a lot, and I think James Tinian the fourth comes by Third Eye quite a bit too. Uh, Junior 402 says, "Can you do a huge happy birthday to my cousin Dixon Myers from Utah?" Birthday shout out to Dixon Myers from Utah. Happy birthday. Eric Guapo says when you ignore trolls, they disappear. Yeah, the problem is like people are going to interact with them, so that's why I just end up either timing them out or just hiding them from the channel because they're always going to rub someone's feathers the wrong way. So and it brings down the stream. Yep, block them, ban them, keep the convo going. He said I would cry like a lost child if I lost my collection. Yeah, that's what happened to. I'm sorry, I can't remember if that happened to Dilfit or that happened to the guy Jay. He had to go, but one of them lost their collection. He said thousands of dollars worth of stuff. Um, Something like that happened to me as a kid, though. I lost my whole baseball card collection. It wasn't a huge collection, but it was something I had started when I was like, I don't know, like 9 or 10. Just like every time I would go to like the convenience store, I would just buy the tops. Well, definitely the tops cards because the tops cards were probably the best out of all of them. Then you had the other ones like Donruss and the other guys, and I even had a few rookie cards that my father bought me. I had the Ken Griffey Jr. rookie card, and I had the Bo Jackson rookie card, and I lost all that stuff. And when I say lost, they were actually stolen from me. Um, the rookie cards I think were stolen from me from some friends of mine when I was in Chicago, I think. And then my huge my huge booklet of cards, which was like probably like thousands of cards. I think my my junkie uncle stole them. So after that, I just was like, nah, I'm not gonna collect. I'm not gonna collect baseball cards anymore. I was just too annoyed. Dag, these are a lot of messages I had to delete. Jim Girl says, nice tower, Nate. Eric, how long you been collecting? Oh, Jay is still here. I'm sorry. I thought you left, Jay. Is mm, this the trailer you commenting from close to a McDonald's? Oh, so it was Jay who lost it, not Dilford. It was Jay. I'm sorry, I confused you two guys. So yeah, I can understand you losing that stuff. Because like I said, even though my baseball collection wasn't as nearly as valuable as your comic book collection, worth thousands of dollars, it's still something to me as a kid. I was 13 when I lost it, and I had started collecting that stuff when I was around 8 or 9. So that comics from the fourth grade, I don't have anything from then. Well, I didn't even buy comics back. Well, I would buy comics I would go out with my father. The only time I would buy comics back then, he would take me out. Usually we would go like when I was in Virginia, we would he would take me out fishing, and he would we would go to like 7-Eleven or wherever, and then he would let me buy a few comics and like give me like a this little Virginia fried chicken sandwich. And I would just enjoy. I'd be eating my sandwich and read my comics, and I would probably just throw them away after I read them. And it was like I think the very first comic book I was reading was like Spider Ham comics, and this I forgot what he was called, Top Dog or something. It wasn't Top Dog from from Hanna Barbera. It was a similar character, but I used to get those two all the time, and someone else. But I used to get those, but when I was like 7, 8, 9 years old. But I didn't keep any of them. I think after I read them, I probably threw them away. He said you pay $1 million for Batman if you had it. I was born in the early '80s, so yeah. Uh, if I had it, I don't know. If I have if I had like if I was a centie millionaire, like I had hundreds of millions of dollars, maybe. But to say like I was like say my net worth was like, and this is not my net worth, but say if it was like my net worth was like $2 or $10 million, there's no way I would spend like $1 to $2 million on a singular comic book unless I know it's guaranteed to like something that expensive. I'm not buying just for my own enjoyment. I'm buying it for its for its value. So if I unless I know that it's gonna double or triple its worth, it probably won't be worth me getting. I just get for old comic books. I just buy the facsimile reprints for $5. Eric says I still have my very first comic that my granny bought me. It was a Beavis and Butthead comic Marvel made. Yeah, Marvel used to make a lot of stuff that was outside of the Marvel universe. Beavis and Butthead and just about anyone. I think there was a Beetlejuice comic book. I think it was everything, and a lot of them was made by Marvel for some reason. DC didn't do a lot of those movie and TV show franchises the way Marvel did. I don't know who Peabody was talking about chicken and ignoring him. He said Dale said Beavis and Butthead almost forgot they were a thing. How you think? I'm surprised you forgot because Ryan Gosling just recently did like a live action cosplay of him to promote his new movie. He and the guy on SNL, like they did like a cosplay of him of Beavis and Butthead recently because it was like all over like the news when they did it. But yeah, I like Beavis and Butthead as a kid too. They did a new version of them that came out on I can't remember. I think it was on Paramount Plus. It was either on Paramount Plus or Hulu. I think it was Paramount Plus, but it didn't have the same. It wasn't the same as watching it as a kid than watching the new reboot. Just like I didn't like the reboot of the Animaniacs that came on Hulu. It's like they were trying too hard for me. So Eric says I also collected a parody comic called Adolescent Radioactive Black Belt Hamsters. It was a spoof of TMNT. I love that series. I never heard that one. uh, He said, let's see if that fool comes back with another alt account. Well, I don't know which one you're talking about, but if I hidden them from the channel, they can't come back with an alternate account because it's always YouTube is going to block them by their IP address, so they can't come back under an alternate account. As far as I know, if it's under the same IP address. KM says that I traveled to Russia. I think you asked me that before, KM, but see, I see you back. I haven't. Eric the Guapo says I think Dynamite Publishing owns the IP right now, but is doing nothing with it. Yeah, there's some franchises that aren't currently being they have no new stuff coming out, but they're still but these franchises are still owned by certain companies, but they rather just keep the rights to them, even if they don't make any new stuff, because they can still make money off the old stuff. Eric says, "Yeah, I buy things I like. I'm not trying to resell any of it. When I have to purge my collection, I donate to the LCS and get some store credit to buy more comics." OJ says, "I collect knives. I collect quite a few weapons myself. I've shown them in a few videos. I don't have a lot, but it's a it's a good amount." Eric says, "I couldn't watch the Spawn animated show. We were still on public cable back then, but I watched it as an adult and really liked it." Yeah, I couldn't watch it. It's not. If I looked at it now, it wouldn't be watchable. But as a teenager, I could watch it. But it was just it it was like trying too hard to be edgy, and a lot of the animation wasn't that great in the first couple of seasons. Cadet says, "Sup, homie? Dig your shirt. Appreciate it." um, Putting someone else on timeout. Kevin the Guapo, sorry, Eric the Guapo says Kevin Grievous is such a cool guy. He comes in with memorabilia from his movies and comics and just hangs out. The man is a giant too with a super deep voice. I can't remember. He sounds familiar, but I don't know what he's written. But guys, I really need to go. I didn't intend on being this long. I'm gonna just get through the last comments. And by the way, again, like I appreciate if you guys like and subscribe and all that good stuff, because it helps me out, and I'm about to be monetized. So I have something coming the end of this week. Well, Mrs. Contrarian does, because I said 2 years ago that I wasn't going to use her as the face of my YouTube channel the way some YouTubers do. They put their girlfriends or pay for play girlfriends or whatever um, on their YouTube channel and basically thirst trap to get eyeballs. And I said I would never do that with my wife. But I said, once I hit like 1,000 subs, um, I would show a little bit more of her on the channel. So I'm going to do that since we're very close to that. I might hit 1,000 subs before I'm monetized, but I'm a man of my word. So once I hit 1,000, she's still going to do something that I'm going to post on the channel, uh, even if I'm not monetized. Because like I said, I originally said 1,000 subs, so I'll stick to that. And then hopefully I'll still get monetized as well after I hit the 1,000 subs, because you still have to have enough watchable hours, either through your long form videos or your YouTube shorts. So you need all of that to get your YouTube partnership program. Um, So Jay said he started collecting. Well, his parents started collecting for him when he was born in the early '80s. Lost the collection. 2,000 guys, you got me wanting to collect again. If you still own stuff, why not? Um, you know, The way they DC and Marvel do it nowadays, they make it easy because they do these points where you can restart it from. So the current one with DC is going to be called Absolute Power. That's going to be their new crossover um, maxi series. It's called Absolute Power, and that's going to connect with House of Brainiac or whatever, and I think that's going to be a follow up to Night Terrors. I haven't read any of that stuff because when it comes to DC, I pretty much just read Batman and that's it. I'm not trying to get into all those huge crossovers. The last crossover I read was Identity Crisis. I think so. I have all the original ones: Crisis on Infinite Earths, Infinite Crisis, and Identity Crisis. I didn't get into all the other ones like Dark Crisis and Hero, uh, Hero Crisis and all this sort of stuff because it was just starting to become annoying. Same thing with Marvel and all their crossovers. I've never read any of their stuff crossover wise. I just get the individual heroes: Spider Man, Wolverine, Captain America, and that's it. And Star Wars Marvel, of course. I remember Wildcats. I think I put this. Garuda says talk about transhumanism. Jay says Aeon Flux. I remember the MTV when it was on MTV when it was the. Do you remember Liquid Television? It used to be like these little 15-minute segments, and it had Aeon Flux. That's where Aeon Flux started. That's where Beavis and Butthead started. I think that's where the Max started. All of those were on Liquid Television, and then they all got their separate TV shows. The Aeon Flux TV show wasn't good, but when they had the Aeon Flux Liquid Television shorts, they were good. But once they tried to flesh out the character, it wasn't good. And then when they did the movie, the live action movie back in the early 2000s, that was horrible. I think most people don't even remember the Aeon Flux live action movie because it was so horrible. Big Beard, Blackbeard said, "What's up? What's up, Blackbeard?" Gyarados life extension technology for the elites. Yeah, I've actually talked about that in a previous live stream when we were talking about like philosophical stuff. Samantha Torres says Jesus loves you. Well, Kevin Grievous is mostly known for his movies Underworld. Oh, okay, that's where I've heard the name. He's also the creator of Blue Marvel. I've heard of Blue Marvel too. My favorite crossover was the Super Sons with Batman. Yeah. The movie was horrible though. Like the animation, it was just bad, and the story, it just wasn't. The story wasn't bad, but the animation was just so bad it made me not want to watch it. Um, okay, I didn't know Nate could be back, so he's gone. What is my favorite Batman story? Um, I think Death in the Family. I think Death in the Family is my favorite because that was the very first Batman comic book I ever read was Death in the Family. I read the whole trade paperback back in the late 80s. One of my friends that turned me on to nerdy stuff like that when I used to live in Chicago, he let me borrow his book. And I was like, man, this is good. Like I had no idea that Batman could be so dark because until that time, my only this was before 1989, so this is before the movie came out, right? So my only knowledge of Batman was the Super Friends cartoon, Scooby Doo because he made appearances on the Scooby Doo the Scooby Doo show, and the 1960s Batman with Adam West. So the first time I actually read a Batman comic book was Death in the Family, and it was just so dark, and I didn't know that the Joker was so sinister. Like he just murdered a kid in the comic book. That was crazy to me. That was my first one, so that's my favorite. That's probably my that's my favorite, and maybe second to that would be Son of the Demon, which was the original story of how Damian Wayne was born. I hate the reboot how they made it. That basically um, that Talia basically sexually assaulted Batman and ended up having Damian Wayne, because the original storyline was, he was their child out of marriage. Like, he married Talia because Ra's al Ghul wanted him to take over the League of Assassins for him. He saw him as his as his as the guy who was worthy of being taken on the mantle, and he ended up falling in love with Talia. They got married. Um, it was a pretty good storyline, and he was even teaching the League of Assassins not to kill people. Uh, but with all everything that happened in that story, Talia felt that she couldn't stay married to um, to Batman because it wouldn't allow him to be who he actually is, which shows that she really loved him. That she would say that she let him go so that he could continue being a superhero, and she lied to him and said that she miscarried. And then in the very last panel of Son of the Demon, it showed the baby, Damian Wayne. That was his original. That was the original way that he came about. So Son of the Demon and Death in the Family are my favorite Batman stories, and I think Death in the Family is my very favorite because that's the very first one I ever read. Um, all right, yeah. So guys, I'm a head out for the. It's late, and I still wanted to get put something on my belly before I eat. No Diddy. I mean before I sleep. So um, I'm gonna go do that. I do have Frank Miller Dark Knight Returns. That's a good one too. Really good one. I have that on my bookshelf right next to Batman Year One. Uh, but yeah, he did make, Eric is right. He did make Superman look bad in his Dark Knight stuff. I mean, Frank Miller is a character in himself though. Anyway, so that's a story for a whole different day. Guys, I'm gonna go. Um, yeah. So Death in the Family is when Joker killed Jason Todd, and it was because they actually had a call in contest of whether to save Jason Todd or whether to kill him, and most people voted to have Jason Todd killed by the Joker. But then we later learned, literally in the 2010s, that contest was rigged because apparently someone had set up some sort of automatic calling to keep calling to favor Jason Todd being killed. That probably most fans actually didn't want Jason Todd to get to die, but some really fanatic, well, that's what fan means, right? Fanatic. Some fanatic had rigged the phone system so that he could keep calling to make it in favor of Jason Todd being killed. But yeah, that was that storyline. Yeah, Nightfall. Like I said, the whole Nightfall thing should be an animated film. Yeah, exactly, Jay. He said people think Batman skills prep time. Even that, the worst thing I always hear is Batman's superpowers that is uh that he's rich. Mm. And I've even heard this from comic book writers, like not here, but when I was in the Philippines, I went to the Manila comic book convention, and I was walking around with a Batman T-shirt. He said, "Oh, good, this guy has a Batman T-shirt." He said, "A realistic superhero." He said, "The only superhero who has a realistic power. He's wealthy." And I just smiled, but I was like, "Yeah, you obviously don't know Batman if that's what you think his real power is, that he's rich." Because there's been storylines when he's lost all his wealth. His power is his indomitable willpower. That's his superpower. that and his genius level intellect. Eric says, what I like the most about Batman is his rigid moral code. He doesn't bend it for anyone, right? Yep, Jay says you take everything away, he's still Batman. Yep. I was gonna let this guy ride, um, N-word killer, but yeah, I once you use that word, like, no, that's not gonna ride with me. Like, you don't get to say that. Even if even and I don't care if he is black, you're not gonna have that YouTube handle and think you're gonna talk on here. That's just crazy. Wait, he says Marcus? Wait, hold up. Uh, huh. I don't I don't know if this is the Marcus that I know. No, it's not the Marcus that I know. Um, I don't think that's the Marcus that I know. But all right, I have to go too, guys. So good talking with you. Did not mean to go late into the night. I'm going to pay for that. So good talking Batman stuff with you guys and comic book stuff, all that good stuff. Um, it's always a pleasure. Eric, Jay, Dilfit, the other guys I spoke with, CJ, all you guys appreciate it. Um, any new folks that I spoke with today, appreciate you guys as well. Um, and like I said, if you guys haven't, please, like, subscribe, hit notifications, share if you feel compelled. Um, that'll help me get monetized, and then we can start doing super chats, which will be a little upgrade from these vertical live streams. All right, take it easy, guys. Thank you.